Hi ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video. I guess in this video I will discuss a couple of different things, and I will kind of explain to you why we moved to a different country. Not only that, but I'll also explain to you why we moved to a different country with less than $200 in our pockets and with no credit cards. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of you are thinking like she's absolutely insane, and yes, I do agree with that. Okay, I think you know it, it was a huge risk, and even though the move itself didn't really cost too much, but coming here with less than $200, right, obviously meant that we needed a different place to stay, or a place to stay that was extremely inexpensive or even free, right? And so that's how we ended up, in my great grandmother's house. And of course, um, she offered free housing, right? Um, I also had, I knew a couple of other people in this town, in this country, and I spoke to them, okay? And of course, they were family, right? Or it was actually the woman that we grew up with, right? And I spoke to you guys about her in another video. I contacted her, and she doesn't live here anymore, so they moved to another country with her family, and there was that, right? So that option was no longer there, and so I had to try other options, right? And so I contacted my aunt, and she lives in a very fancy neighborhood here in this country, right? And it's by the beach, and she has a big house. But guys, of course, she said no. She said no, but she's not a very good person, to be honest with you guys, and I got a chance to get to know her a little bit when I was living here and when I gave birth to my son, right? Because my son was born here. And so I realized she wasn't a good person. First of all, we were walking, and she saw two guys saw us, and they kind of like said, hey, they kind of like catcalled us, right? And or me rather, and she was like, they were nice about it. They weren't like disrespectful. They actually gave me a compliment, right? And she thought it was for her, right? They were catcalling her, and she was just really, really mean to them, And I said, well, you shouldn't have said this. That's not very nice. And I called her out on it, and basically I just, I realized that she wasn't a good person. A good person will never treat other people like this, and so there were several other signs that I noticed. I always kind of pay attention in, especially new relationships, so I always pay attention, and I make sure that, I notice the red flags, be it with female relationships or male relationships or any relationships, basically, right? Work relationships, with family. I don't care if it's family or not. If even if you're family, right? More often than not, we have family, but do we really know them? In most cases, we don't know them. We don't know anything about them. Uh, we might have had shallow conversations with them, like surface conversations, right? Um, or we might have, just maybe we knew them when we were kids, right? And we interacted then, and now we think we know them, right? But once again, when you become an adult, you have to get to know everyone all over again, because as an adult, you understand more, you have more experience, you understand more about people,
I
and
can't hear anything, Mom.
you actually have the capacity to get to know other people, right? So, just a second, guys. My kid is like right here. Okay, let me finish the video, okay, and then we'll turn up the volume, okay? Well, I'll finish the video, buddy, okay, and then we'll turn up the volume, okay?
Alright.
All right. But anyway, so yeah, guys. So but back to what I was saying, right? And so um, family is important. It's important because several of you, actually one of you in particular, right? And uh, you always say that family, like there's a huge lack of a lot of people are experiencing that lack of family support and any support for that matter, right? And that makes it a lot harder to live, right? Back in the day, we had that, right? We had that village to raise kids, right? And now we don't. And we're becoming like a more of a individualistic society overall, everywhere pretty much, right? Not just in America. So, and that's not good, I believe. I do agree with that. I think people need people, and especially good people, right? Like, and not just any relationship. I'm not saying that we need just any relationship. You need someone who is going to support you mentally, physically, who is going to be there for you, right? And who is going to help you out if you need it, right? And vice versa, right? I'm not saying it should only go one way, right? So there's that, right? Um, and so I decided to contact my great grandmother, right? Because my several, people in my family pointed to her, and ironically, right? And I pretty much knew she was probably going to be a narcissist, okay, guys? Um, I was being honest with myself, out of all the family members, I also, my intuition is very strong, so I was like, okay, let's try this out, okay? What do I have to lose, right? Like, we'll go in, we'll try living with her for a bit, and that's it, right? Like, I'll maybe have to gray rock, I'll have to gray rock her, right? And anyway, so back to the video, right, guys? And so um, I basically knew what I was getting us into, okay? And I was willing to take that risk and take that chance. Deep down somewhere, I was hoping that she could be, a grandmother, perhaps, someone that could be an addition to our family, right? And um, but that wasn't the case at all, she became abusive pretty much from the first day, and then apologizing, and then making excuses, right? Saying that she's old and that's just the way that she is, and just to, tell her to, be quiet if she ever went off on me like this, And so she was just making excuses. She was basically trying to condition me to accept, she was trying to normalize her abusive behavior. Okay, so one thing that I learned is that, if someone is abusive, like, never tolerate it, never tolerate. So guys, family or not, never tolerate abuse from anyone. Um, you know, that's what finding and having self-love is all about. And I'm sure many of us are still searching for that self-love, right? While tolerating disrespect, while tolerating abuse, while trying to normalize it in our heads, while at the same time understanding that something isn't right. And someone, because abuse, right? Abuse can eventually take a huge toll on you mentally, physically, emotionally, and once your self-esteem is hit, you won't be able to do anything. You'll be powerless basically, because your self-esteem, your confidence is everything when it comes to making life happen for you and helping others and also helping yourself, right? You can't help others if you can't help yourself. And so, we all kind of are relying on you for standing up for yourself, for speaking up, and for not tolerating disrespect, for developing those boundaries. And, by the way, guys, I told her my boundaries several times, and right from the start, and she laughed at it and she kind of disregarded them, right? I told her that, I'm going to be teaching then and then, please don't disturb me during my class, right? And like a child, she just like kept on disturbing me in the beginning, and I was like shocked, because I didn't expect her to do that. But at the same time, it kind of she gave herself away very, very quickly, and on top of it all, like all narcissists, right? They're very predictable. Once you know what to look out for, you can predict their behavior, right? So dealing with them becomes super easy. And eventually, anyways, I'm not gonna make this video about her, right? But basically, we had to find a new place. Okay, and before that, I was already prepared for her being toxic and, kind of trying to provoke me, trying to, and trying to gain my energy basically, okay, by like provoking me and, flip. The narcissists, right, they have this switch that kind of turns on, right, and then they just go crazy, right? And so she had that switch, and she kept on switching from being nice, overly nice, right, and just trying to give us stuff, to being mean and abusive and saying just terrible things like, you should give away your child, I was like, wow, But anyways, that's their way of like trying to destabilize you. And because once you're out of alignment, once you're destabilized, they can more easily control you. They can gain access to you, right? Because when you're feeling insecure, unstable, then they can, farther start manipulating you and controlling you and sucking you dry, basically, getting your life force, right? And so, yeah, I wasn't having any of that, and I, at some point I told her I was really pissed off. I was like very angry at that point, right? But still, I didn't really react too much. I just said, listen, you're kind of like, you're being abusive, right? And everything that you're saying is yours. It's not mine, right? So she was projecting onto me, right? And so I just kind of, one other good idea what you can do is you can, like if they're throwing all of that energy, that negative energy, that actually belongs to them, right, onto you. If they're projecting, you can tell them, listen, this isn't mine. All of what you said is yours, it's not mine. So kind of like, you can even like energetically give it back to them, so, and then they will be like shocked, they won't expect that, so that's what I did. And we ended up leaving to an Airbnb, and so I found this Airbnb. It wasn't easy to find an Airbnb here, you know, that was inexpensive, right? That was affordable, right, for us. And so, but I still found it. I actually found it back in Bulgaria, but it was not occupied yet. I mean, it was, yeah, it was still occupied. I mean, and so, yeah, and because of that, we had to wait, you know. So eventually, you know, the time came when we could move in there. And so I got the Airbnb and yeah, guys, and that's pretty much, you know, that's pretty much the story. Okay, so we got away from the abusive woman. You know, we actually left without saying a single word. You know, um, and yeah, but guys, why I wanted to make this video, right? Just kind of sharing on as to why I decided to move out of Bulgaria, right? With less than $200 in my pockets and no credit cards, okay? And guys, the first reason is the lack of support in a small town, okay? My town was really, really small, and mm, I just felt a complete lack of support as a single mom, and I felt like I was drowning, guys. I felt like I was drowning, and as you know, my child is always with me, right? And so there weren't enough clubs or activities or really much of anything in my town. And so I just, you know, I couldn't really find any like-minded individuals, although at the end I kind of did, but still not really, right? So it was hard to find a like-minded individual. Most people had someone also, so there were families, right? And there weren't too many single moms, I think. Mm. So yeah, the lack of support was really killing me. I needed more solutions, I needed more groups, I needed more support as a single mom. And so moving to bigger city made sense. And you know, that's why we moved also. Okay, that's the first reason. Second reason, guys, is you know, in stagnancy um, in a small place. I realized that in a small location in the countryside, not too many things grow. Okay, sooner or later you know, one beautiful thing about the cities that I can appreciate now is is how everything around you, and how, you know, the city showcases people's evolution and expression of self, right? Expression of consciousness. As souls, we came here to create, right? And the city is the perfect example of, you know, that human creation gone wild. It's that perfect example of creation on steroids, right? And that's what I love about the cities. And in the countryside, stagnation is everywhere. You know, in most cases, people have small minds, right? And I'm not saying that everyone does, but you know, I think maybe it's that lack of ambition that I don't really particularly like about living in you know, a much smaller town. I don't like the fact that there's no privacy and everyone just kind of tries to butt into your business, right? And I really don't like that, because I'm a pretty private person when it comes to my personal life, and I don't want everyone knowing everything about me and knowing my business, you know, and I, when they didn't even ask, you know. And so I found that out really quickly also in my town, that like everyone just started telling me information about me that I never even gave out, you know. So That was not cool. But anyways, let's go back to the soul evolution, right? I think over time, and especially if you spend a lot of time on your own, you're going to um, you're going to start expanding internally. And once that takes place, once your energy expands, you're going to need something different. You're going to need to move to another location that's more in alignment with your uh, internal growth. And that's where I was too. I felt like that place no longer resonated with me because of I felt like I simply outgrew it, and I needed something more, something bigger, something where I would be more challenged, somewhere where I would be pushed to my limits, basically. And that's the reason why also I've moved around so much, and I lived in so many different places too, is because each place introduces you to something different and challenges you in ways that you never knew possible. And so that's why, I I moved. It is something that my soul craved. It craved change and expansion, and I craved, uh, you know, mm, meeting more like-minded people, and just simply living in a place that was in alignment with who I became, with the new version of me. I spent way too much in hermit mode, basically, just being tucked away with me and my child, right? And just being alone on my own with my child, basically, right? In Bulgaria, and that had to change. That was no longer serving me or anyone for that matter. Um, the next point, guys, is that, you know, basically, in a bigger city, there are more clients, more opportunities, right? And so I have a book, guys, right? And you should definitely purchase my book if you haven't done so already. And I have two books, right? One is a children's book which teaches children about healthy morals and values. And another one is a guidebook, a book that guides you towards your own healing, right? If you haven't healed, if you come from a traumatic past, right? And so I kind of provide you the tools, and I give you the guidance to kind of, push you back into that light that you belong in, right? And so if you guys haven't checked out my books, then go check them out. Okay, you can find them on Amazon. Okay, guys, and so part of the reason why I moved here also is because there are so many bookstores, and I can promote my book to those bookstores. So there are a lot of options for that, and also, English is a big language here. So a lot of people speak English, or they want to learn English. So there's that. Okay, then another reason is that I felt really unsafe, guys. Unfortunately, I had a lot of stalkers, and because of the lot of stalkers, so another one, right, is not feeling safe. Basically, I had a couple of stalkers, people going by my windows, you know, following me in cars, right? And I had to, run away with my child, right? Just holding his hand to another street, kind of tricking him and making him think that I'm going his way. And so it was not, I just, we also had another neighbor also. For the most part, the neighbor next to us was really nice, he was cool. But our two other neighbors that were older, much older, they were narcissists, basically, I could tell. And one of them just kept on going like this way, just making the sign, and just every time she would pass me, she would call me bad names, right? And so she was abusive too, and I didn't even know her, so it was really weird. But, you guys all know it's a spiritual battle, right? For we battle not against flesh and blood. So these people had bad spirits, obviously, and they just, you know, they they were not healthy to be around, and so I was getting attacked by them left and right. You know, the other neighbor, I'm not even going to go into um, details about him, but yeah, let's just leave it at the fact that he was toxic as well. So I felt incredibly unsafe in that particular place, and so I wanted to move out too. Okay, for the sake of my child and myself. And last but not least, guys, okay, is I because of, you know, many of you don't know, okay, but um, you know, me and my child, we're struggling. I'm struggling with his behavior and his defiance and his um, you know, just you know, and a lot of other issues basically, and it's been super challenging as a parent just to remain patient and um, loving even, and you know, understanding, and it's been a huge challenge, you know, and not only that, but you know, I think that togetherness, we're always together, you know, and so that togetherness is a bit too much, you know, and I just feel like, you know, he's also growing up, right, and he needs to spend more time with other people too, right, with kids his own age. And I can see, because every time he spends and he has been doing that here too, by the way. In fact, we just did that yesterday and that was fun, you know, but yeah, he just needs to spend more time with kids his age. This way, you know, he gets to interact with them, and that's healthy, right? And I get to take a break, and you know, we don't always get to be together, right? And so I, because of this also, I've been considering sending him to school, although I'm pretty much against school, right? But I've been highly considering it. And one thing that I realized about Bulgaria is that kids in Bulgaria, especially kids that look different, they get bullied. Many kids complain to me on the playground about getting bullied. They would just speak to me, right? And you know, kids like love me, and they like to open up to me, and a lot of kids have come to me and they told me they would open up like almost immediately, saying that they were bullied in schools. And so that's a huge issue for me, you know, bullying. And in school, you can't really avoid that, you know. It's bound to happen, even in, I believe, everywhere, you know. Uh, Especially if someone is different, if they have a different spirit, if they look different, if they're smarter, you know, whatever makes them stand out, right? Whichever trait, and especially if they're alone, you know. So if they don't have any friends, then they're more likely to get bullied. Um, and yeah, in Bulgaria, it was a huge problem, and it was reported to me by many kids. Not just one, not just two, not just three. Many kids, Ukrainian kids, Russian kids, okay? They were getting bullied, okay? And so I was like, okay, if I send my kiddo to school there, like I would be signing him up for that, basically. Like, you know, no way, right? So I was like, I did some thinking, and I was like, maybe it's best if he goes somewhere where, you know, um, I don't know, where you know, he's less likely to get bullied, basically. And I just, yeah. And so I thought about, you know, this country, right? And so that's why, you know, also we moved here, okay? And yeah, guys, I don't know how long we're going to be staying here for, you know, we'll see. But so far it has been a journey, and it's been challenging, and it's still going on, and I'm still hanging on to faith that everything will be okay, that everything will turn around, you know, and things have already begun to turn around. it seems like, but we still, of course, need help and support. And if you can all, if any of you can, you know, donate something or, offer that support, then that would be amazing, amazing, amazing. And we would be truly, truly grateful. And yeah, um, and that's it, that's all I have for you guys. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more updates and just things that we have experienced. And yeah, I would love to take you on our journey, and hopefully you can learn from it, or you can grow from it yourself and get better. And yeah, and I hope you enjoy my videos. I will definitely make some videos in our town here where we're at, because it's extremely beautiful and it's by the beach. So I think you guys will love it. Okay. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for another video.